Hello, join us on this week's Loose Links. We're back after a week off of internet disaster. But come and join us this week as we've got a panel of four with a brand new show. All that on tonight's show. Welcome to this week's Loose Links. Joining me, the panel that have turned up tonight. Joining me, Nicholas James, is Mandy Stannard, Claire Browning-May, and Jason Lambert. As we talk about, as it still goes on, the Ukraine story of people, of a woman literally that jumped in her car with two very young children and speeded for her life. To get here, to be told instantly by people of this country, you should go home. Actually, should statements like that now be illegal and be part of hate crime? Find out our view. Also, we're doing a new segment in the show called Loose History, where I take my hands off the reins for 5 minutes as three panellists interview me. I'm in the hot seat, to find out a little bit more about me. We'll be doing this once a month with a different panel member every time. So it's me this week, and we finish on a guy that has been lost, and we are looking for him in Lincolnshire. The family is obviously devastated, but it brings us back to that hard-hitting story, Madeleine McCann. And as more information has come out, find out what we think of the McCann story. All that on tonight's show. Good evening, panel. For that long introduction, I didn't think I was going to shut up. Good evening. Hello.
Good evening.
It's nice to see you. The only original panel member here is Mandy Stannard. By the skin of her teeth, she's made it this evening. Bless Vicky Pearson. We send a lot of love out to you. She's not very well. And Rachel Penny. We're sorry we wasn't on air last week. Internet was not in our favour and would not let us record. So we're back with an even bigger show this week. But let's start off with not last week's polls, but the week before, because it's your show as well as ours. So, polls last week were, do you think prison is always the right answer? 11% of you said yes, 83% of you said no, and 5%, added by Nigel Mullall, says depends on the nature of the offence. Second poll is, do you believe we need to do more for when people come out of the forces? 100% of you said yes. There was not one person in that poll that disagreed. If you have shared on our page this week, I do apologise. Ladies, I've got something to tell you. Guess what I did last week? I lived it up being gay in Manchester.
Hey.
I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I haven't been for about a year, so I do apologise. I know there are pending posts that I need to look through. I apologise. I was in Manchester's Canal Street for 4 nights, which was absolutely amazing. And I walked down Coronation Street, which I felt like I just need like outside the Rovers on the window, but they wouldn't let me put it like a Loose Links sign. They just would not let me put it. I tried, but I couldn't. Anyway, how are you doing, Mandy? We haven't seen you for a while on the show. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Have you missed it?
No. Yeah.
Claire and Jason, thank you so much for stepping in. You've been incredible this evening. We have our 2 step-ins this evening. I've got to say though, Claire, you are looking a little bit like a soap star. I've got a bit of a Cat Slater look.
I know. I thought when you said you'd been to Coronation Street, I thought, I know what I'm going to wear.
I don't know what I'm going to wear. So our first topic is quite a hard-hitting topic tonight, ladies and gents. So a woman in Ukraine finally made the decision to leave Ukraine. She tried to stay as long and as best as she possibly can, but she feared the safety of her children. So decided in a midnight fleet to jump in a car and to drive as far away as she could possibly get to finally getting on a plane with her two children, with no family, no friends, but just her and the kids, to finally get to the UK, a place of safety. Now, she's been in papers this week because she's not claimed any of our benefit systems. She's not claimed, and it says in the article, no housing benefit. No, she hasn't even gone for a council house. She hasn't gone for anything. She's staying in a hostel with her two children, but she says she has been let down by Britain because in the first week she got sayings thrown at her like, "You don't belong here, go home." So it did get me thinking, do we forget how privileged we are and take it for granted if it doesn't, and also if it doesn't affect our lives, if it's something in the news that's there and we watch it, if it doesn't affect us, are we not really that bothered? Claire, let's see if oh, go on, Mandy. Go on.
No,
Go on.
I was going to say, first of all, the majority of people don't think that way, I don't think. And if it's a media story, they'll have picked the bits they want to portray or say about that story. And, you know, most of us aren't like that, I don't think. But going back to what you were saying, yeah, I think we if it's not affecting us, then we tend to just put it to the back of our mind. But it must be horrific. I just can't imagine what it's like. So
I personally think a bit of both. I mean, I don't think we forget how privileged we are, but you know, ourselves, we've all been through a tough time, and it's not that we say, you know, we're selfish and we say we come first. You know, you do watch it on the telly, you hear about it on the radio, and in the news, you hear about it everywhere. But it's not that we forget, it's then our lives are, you know, we try to get through our lives the best we can. And some of us do what we can to help others. And I don't think it's that we're privileged. Yeah, you could say we're privileged, but you know, we're all going through something, not as horrific as what they are over there, but you know, me personally, I'm half and half, and I would do what I could. I do know a friend of mine who has taken a Ukraine lady and her child in. The father is still over there. She's adapted her front room. She did a fundraising, a crowdfunding, and asked for things. And you know, she's on her own with two children. And you know, there are a lot of people out there that do a lot. But a lot of people, as I say, are struggling to just try and keep their heads above water. So I don't think everybody should be cast as the same.
No, I think you're right there, Claire and Dan, Mandy. I don't think the majority of the country feel that way. And yes, the papers will portray what they wish to sell, newspapers. That's their job. But yeah, it's very difficult, isn't it? Because we don't forget how privileged we are, but our own lives overtake us as well. And because we're going through such a situation as we are at the moment with the cost of living crisis, I think, as you've said, Claire, most people are struggling to keep their heads above water, and it just makes life very difficult to try and do as much as you can for other people when you're having to go to food banks or things like that because you can't afford to feed yourself or your children as well. It's very difficult, but nobody should be given a go home, you're not welcome here, especially when they've not actually gone into any of our benefit system, because there's many people on benefits in the country now who don't need to be, but they're still taking the money. So
it drives me mad stories like this, because I just think, well, racism is still a massive thing in the year of 2022, isn't it? We're still very far off from just love is love, and that's in LGBT and in race and gender and all of that.
I don't think you will ever get rid of it. Yes, it might go down to a majority, but we're saying like it in this country, but I mean, you like go to America, and they're just against everything. They don't like blacks, they don't like anything, do they? And they have all not cults, but do you know what I mean? They have meetings about say like black people, because they don't want them in. And like you say, it's 2020. Why are we
2022, Claire, not 2020?
No, I didn't mean was in there. Anyway, sure. So yeah, I know what I mean. I just can't say it.
The 2020s.
That's it, Mandy. Yeah, 2020s. That's how old I am. 20-something, 2020 plus something. But yeah, you know what I'm saying. As in, I totally get you. Racism and that, and like you say, with celebrating Pride. But there's always going to be somebody out there. You've got ginger hair, so they'll get picked on. You like girls.
Do we just lay back though and just accept that, or do we need to start thinking? Actually, again, we seem to talk about our justice system quite a lot on this show, but actually, if you do say something like that, surely that's hate crime. Surely that is a crime to say to somebody, go home, you don't belong here. And half the time they say, oh, they come over and take all our, I hate it. Oh, they come over and take all our jobs. Well, actually, they're doing the blooming jobs that you don't want to do. They're on the field at 5 o'clock every morning.
I think it depends on who you are, doesn't it? I mean, look at one of Mr. Boris Johnson's statements about ladies looking like letterboxes because they were wearing the burqas.
Oh, we didn't say that.
In one of his
years ago, yeah.
Columns, he said ladies that were wearing burqas look like letterboxes, and he never got done for that.
And he's the man running our country.
Yeah.
That's what. But do you think I'm right, Andy? Let's go to you. Do you think I'm right? Do you think stuff like that should be classed in hate crime?
Yeah, but then you have to. Yes, that's that particular statement, and aimed at that person. Nobody should be told to do that anyway. But yeah, I think again, you have to look at everything else, and it's to make it a law. Why don't we just educate people better? Educate, because these people have opinions born out of who they live with or hang around with or have been brought up with, so it's education, isn't it? So
but I just think I try and think lately, I really do, I try and think that, pure example, let's use you, Claire, that people are coming over here begging for our help, begging for a life that they want to live, and it almost feels like the UK are almost sat on judgment seats going, well, actually, you can come in and you can't come in, and you can do this, that and the other. But Claire, take pure example, something big disastrously happens in the UK, massive war, and your children wasn't safe. Would you do your very best to get out of the UK to get to a safe place? Totally.
But the thing is, like you say, you think we're judgmental, but where does everybody go to or ask if they need help? It's us, it is the UK, because I think we are a generous nation. If there's anything that's happening, a disaster around the world, we do as a nation help out. We give hundreds of thousands of pounds you know, and I'm not saying we haven't done for this, but they come to us. So for us, it's like, well, where do we go? You know, yes, of course I'd try and get my children out. But then where do we go? A lot of the world can speak English, you know, so for me to go with my 2 children who, well, I don't say ooh la la and a little bit of that, but that's it. You know, if you're going to live in another country, you would like to actually know what they're saying. I think it's a difficult one, as in, no, I would take them out, but it would be, I mean, like I say, I do feel for these people coming over there, how frightening it must be. Like I say, a lot of them are leaving their husbands behind because they're either fighting or, you know, they just want to make sure that their family's safe. But, you know, where do you go? They're coming.
And where do we start with racism? If we're talking about, because this is to me, this is very racial story.
It is, but how do you police that? How, you know, somebody's saying something and yeah, it's totally wrong. But how do you then go down?
I completely get what you're saying, Claire. But again, we're coming from a place that well, I hope on this panel hasn't happened to us. Hasn't happened. We haven't experienced that. But if you were next door to somebody in the UK that called you all the white names under the sun, shouted at your children every time they went down the drive or went back up again, you would do everything in your power for justice. You would stand there, and it's quite easy for us to say as people, well, it's education, and actually you've got to come over here because we're a better country, and this, that, and the other. Where we would expect the same if what was happening in Ukraine was happening in the UK, and Ukraine was the safe place, and we were all flying to Ukraine and begging them to help. Imagine if they put some of the people here in, like, I watched a racism program, the other day, about years ago, about a load of doctors flying over to the UK because we didn't have enough doctors in the NHS. It was years and years ago. And the racial abuse they got here for saving lives is disgusting.
Well, yeah, and it hasn't changed. So we need education. People aren't going to change unless they're educated. And I don't mean at school level. Well, there is that level as well. Well, no, not at school level. If 2 children are playing together, they don't care whether they're a boy or girl, black, white, yellow, green, spotted. You know, they don't care. They just got someone to play with. They're happy. You know, I've seen a program where you've got children and they'll say, what's different between you and then they'll mention somebody else and they'll say something, oh, she's better at maths than me, or he can do a cartwheel. And when you look, you know, they're a different skin color, they're a different ethnicity, or it's a boy or it's a girl. They don't, on a basic level, they're just interested in the person, not where they've come from. Do you know what I mean? So
do you know what I think would be really good for UK? Really good for UK, but it's not going to happen, is to have a week like a refugee. So everything is taken from you. Everything that you've ever known, everything that you've built, everything that you've done is taken from your life, and you have to survive. You have to do everything in your power to survive, because I think it would make people think twice of judging somebody else. And as you know, on the panel, and I've said it very, very much, and I'm very open about it, I'm a Christian man. And to me, he paid much too high a price for us to pick and choose who should come, who's allowed and who's... Do you know what I mean? I don't get it. I really don't get it. What about you, Jason? You
go at church was about giving up places and we was talking about following him. And they said, let me just go home and say thank you. He said, no, if you follow me now, leave them. And we was out, and the question that was asked by the vicar was, what would you leave to get up and go somewhere and leave? What would you leave everything behind you? And that was one of the things that he was talking about 2 weeks ago, about saying all the things that we have, would we just leave them if we needed to?
My friend, she won't. I don't think she watches the show, and she won't mind. I won't name her because there might be some people that do actually know her. But my friend was a teaching assistant for years and years and years, and gave it up to be a vicar. And she's now a vicar in a church in Lincolnshire. Not going to say which one, but she is a vicar in a church in Lincolnshire. But in her training, she was told to put 5 of her most important things in her hand. So she had a son, she had God, obviously, she had God, she had a job, she had a house, she had money, and the vicar went round each time, the vicar that was training, and said, right, you need to give me one of those things. You can't have all of them. So she would hand her a job, hand her money over, hand this, that, and the other, till literally she had 2 things left in her hand. And 2 things was God and her children. And she says it was the hardest thing that I had to hand my children. And that's it's a massive eye-opener when we think about it nowadays. So I'm just saying out there, really, we're briefly touching on it tonight.
I wouldn't give my kids up for anybody, Nick, not even God. Sorry. I think that is, if that's the, I mean, I'm not dishing anybody who's religious. I'm not. I'm curious, as in I'm interested in everything that goes on and everybody's opinion. But if you've got a belief that, or someone says to you, right, you have to give up everything to be with that person, I'd say I'd rather go to hell with my kids. And that sounds awful, but I would. I'm sorry.
But that's all about education as well.
If I had to give you up or follow a prophet, a God, or whatever, I would not give you up.
Yeah.
You're too. I don't think God would ask you to do that anyway.
No. Go on, Claire. What was you going to say? I can see you bubbling.
No, I wasn't. I was just thinking what Mandy's just said to you. Cute. She wouldn't give you up.
Mandy would never give me up. She likes me. I'm Mandy's gay best friend.
Yeah.
Gay best friend, because she thought I was in love with her, so she'd rather have me as a gay best friend. But tell us what you guys think. Should it be part of hate crime? Should something be part of hate crime when somebody is told you don't belong here and go home? Are we too privileged as Great Britain? Do we need to experiment, have everything stripped from us to realise how privileged we are here in the UK? Have you also make sure you join in any of our polls this week? Also, there are many ways you can get in touch. There's the Facebook group, there's the Facebook page, there's Twitter, there's Instagram, there's TikTok, there's looselinks@gmail.com, and there's www.looselinks.co.uk. Get in touch with us any way. We'd love to hear from you. Right, I'm a little bit nervous now because we're doing a new segment in the show called Loose History, made up the name by the lovely Mandy Stannard. She gave us the segment of the show with the new name. So, Loose History is putting a panellist on the spot, where the 3 other panellists can ask any question to this panellist just to find a little bit more information of them and how they actually made it to the loose seat. So today in the hot seat, regrettably, is me. So it's taken over by Mandy, Claire and Jason. So Mandy, let's go to you.
If you had a superpower, what would it be and why?
If I had a superpower, oh no, by far breathe underwater. By far breathe underwater, because I am such a water baby. And my calming place is the sea. Anytime I'm in distress or upset or just need time to reflect, it's the sea. It's water, it's ponds, it's lakes, it's anything that I can get near to that's water. I'm such a water. I love swimming.
Have
So to
you
be able, go
have
on.
you always been a water baby?
Yes, always. Always been a water baby. Just if I can get in water, I'm in it. And I don't know, it's just calming and relaxing. Does anybody else feel like that with water?
Yeah.
In the bath, yeah. I don't know about in the sea. I mean, there's all sorts of things in there, isn't there? I mean, I can swim, but yeah, I love the bath.
Something might have a little nibble.
Yeah, well, I don't want no one to have a nibble.
Go on, Claire, go on.
No, I agree with you. Do you want me to ask my question?
Yeah, go on, ask your question. What's your question?
Right. So you lose links, which is like a full-time job in itself, but without getting paid, of course. And then, of course, you have got your full-time job. But what would be your dream job and why?
Oh, Claire, I'm following your direction, really. It's always been a teacher. Always been a teacher. Always wanted to be a teacher. I was one of those little boys, right up to 14, 15, I think, that used to do role play. I do a very different kind of role play now, but I used to do role play where my bedroom was full of children. And
oh, yeah.
I'd pretend it was a class and I was teaching, and I would tell people off, and I would stand outside my bedroom door and the whole class was waiting to come in my classroom, and to be honest, I was the typical autistic child, so I was very quiet, not very sociable, all of that. And my dad just wrecked my dream, really, because I talked about it. Oh, I want to be a teacher. And he just said one day, "You're not clever enough to be a teacher." And it wrecked my dream. And I think I've always worked in some kind of support. Like I worked with Mandy in a disabled school. I worked there for 5-6 years, and I've done supported living, I've done residential, I've always come back to care, apart from having the 7 years that I had in the council, City of Lincoln, which I'm very, very grateful for. I've always come back to care. Care's always something that I've been very drawn to.
Care or Claire?
Claire. Go on, Jason, what's yours?
If you could think of one moment in your life that you would go back to and could change, what would it be and why, but not in relationships?
Well, you know my secret one. What I would absolutely, yeah, 2004. 2004, I would take myself back into 2004. My grandma was a huge inspiration. She was the first inspiration in my life, and I didn't realise she was an inspiration until she was gone. I used to go to her quite a lot when Mum and Dad fell out. I would end up going to Grandma and Granddad's house and just talking to Grandma. My grandma would just listen. She would never judge. She would just listen. And she'd be turning in the grave now because me and my dad don't get on at all. But I remember this one moment where my dad was having a go at me. He always used to have a go at me. My grandma looked at him and said, "I thought you would be a better dad than you've turned out to be." And that to me was well done, Grandma. Thank you for saying that, actually. But she took her last breath on the 24th of September 2004. So if I could turn back the clock, I would go even to her bedside, because she went to bed and went to sleep. And the lovely other beautiful thing that she did before she went to bed. Did anybody ever watch Touched by an Angel? The TV show. It was on years and years ago. It's about all these angels that walked upon the earth.
Yeah, they did. They came to earth, but you didn't know they were an angel.
Yeah. And my grandma watched that, Claire, as she went to bed. And that to me was just like a last moment thing. Do you know what I mean? But I would grab her hand and I would look at her in the eye and I would go, "Thank you for helping me become the Nicholas James that I've become today. Rest in peace and rise in glory." And that's exactly what I would say to her.
Oh,
lovely.
Mandy.
If you could have 3 other people for dinner for a meal and conversation, past or present, real or fiction, who would you choose and why? You can have 3 people.
Who would I choose at my dinner table? Obviously, they all have to be fit in my eyes, don't they? Obviously, they've all got to be somebody that I fancy. So I think I would start with, which people are going to cringe at, but I would start with the EastEnders fictional character of Max Branning. Something about him. There's something about him, honestly. I would have Max Branning. I would have, what's his name? His dad's a footballer and he's now a footballer. He's on League of Their Own. What's his name? League of Their Own. Say again.
Jamie Redknapp?
Yes, Jamie Redknapp would be sat at that table. He's certainly odd, but right next to me. Right next to me. And the third and final person, I would have my best friend, Andy. I would have him there because actually he's been a massive part of my life and massive part of why I am who I am today. So I would want to do a bit of a thank you meal for him. So yeah, I'd have Andy there.
Can I just add, why all men? Why don't you want no women there?
I think 90% of my life I'm surrounded by women. 90% of my life I'm surrounded, and I've got to be thankful though, because I think it's, apart from Andy, I think it's women that have been absolutely inspirational in my life. Mandy Stannard, you are one of them. We've been friends for a very, very long time. Claire, you've enlightened me with your confidence over the last couple of years. When I first spoke to Claire, she wouldn't even be interviewed on camera. She would not. She backed out and went, no, I'm not having this. I'll speak to you on the phone. But I've had many inspirational women. Emma Pitcher, Jo Lloyd, Sophie Carmel, Judy Shaw, Sue Humphrey, she's on the show. I'm just thinking, have I missed anybody out? But loads of inspirational women in my life. So yeah.
I have to say, I was going to say, I have to say, Nick, so you have your best mate conversation and the other 2 just ride Candy.
Yeah.
That's really insightful.
He would sit there bored, wouldn't he? He would honestly sit there bored. Right, who was that question? That was you, Mandy. Claire, let's go to you.
Right. What really winds you up and annoys you? Why? What annoys you? What
being lied to?
Lied.
Yeah, I hate it. Even if it's really hurtful, and even if it's something actually he might not want to hear this, I'd rather hear it than be lied to. I hate backstabbing. I hate talking behind backs. I hate all of that. And this is where I can jump in, thank you, Jason. But in the 2 relationships that I have been in, they've been based on lies, just complete lies. And actually, I am now, and I'm happy to say I am now back on the dating scene again. I'm not seeing anybody at the moment. There's nobody in the horizon. But I was very much a lad that was find somebody, yeah, I like them, settle down. Where now I'm now at the age of 24 that I am, I just need to make sure I saw none of you laugh then at that point. So I'm quite chuffed that you all accepted I was 24. But I just want to date. I just want to find somebody that I can date, that I can go out with, get to know each other, just take it very slow, because my life runs at 100 miles an hour. If I'm not doing loose links, I'm at work. So it's one thing or another. So I sort of need someone to adapt to me a little bit as much as I adapt to them. So yeah, I would say lies is for me. Lies is a big thing This is where Mandy goes, I've been lying to you all your life, Nick. Go on, Joseph, what's yours?
Right. Loose Links was originally a dream, which has become a success. What do you think has been the biggest achievement of the show?
Getting me on.
What do you think the biggest achievement is of the show? Oh, that's a hard one because there's been quite like can I name a couple or do I just have to name one?
No. You can name a couple.
I think a real inspirational episode was the domestic abuse episode where we had Robert Wells on, where he went down right deep into his story about how he was abused by a woman, and that's huge for a man. That's huge for a man to come forward and publicly speak about it as well. And it brought back memories. I've been, as I've said many times, I've been in a domestic abuse relationship, but actually the more we talk about it, the more hopefully it gets out there a little bit more. The other episode that I really, really enjoyed was the Children in Need one, where we had what were Loose Links and the Little Ones, I think it was called, where Kerry Gillespie, James Bentley, who was on the show, Kerry Gillespie, James Bentley, brought on that. I can't remember who was on the episode, who else was on the episode, but brought on their little ones. The other big episode that I really enjoyed, and the biggest achievement I've made on this show, is getting my mum on the show for Mother's Day special. Claire, you got your mum on the show as well. It was a big thing for us all, really, because we didn't know how they were all going to react. And just so thankful that each and every one of you out there watches us week in, week out. I am so incredibly thankful that you follow us. I'm incredibly thankful to everybody that's part of the project, because actually it wouldn't be the success that it is today without the people that you see in front of you. So yeah, I just think it, for me, it was an idea for 5-6 years, but actually I think when humanity were at its furthest apart, we were a little group that brought humanity back together again. And I think that's the beauty of Loose Links. Like, some people I've still not met in person. Claire, I've not met you in person. And we still haven't done that. We are going for a loose meal in August. I will let people know out there. So if you are in Lincoln, come and say hello to us, because we always love to hear from you. Mandy's always happy to do a selfie with anybody. So just make sure that you tap her on the shoulder and she'll do it. Yeah, but that's it. That's it for me. Mandy, let's go to you. Third question.
I've forgotten all my questions. What's your favourite book, or reading material?
I'm going to sound really cliche here, but the Bible.
Beside the Bible.
Yeah.
The Bible.
The Bible. The Bible is one of my favourite. Because Jason might disagree with me here. I'm not a Christian that believes in every word of the Bible is absolute key. I think with reading Bible stories, I think there's a lesson to be learned in every story we read. But I don't think we're talking about people that wrote it hundreds of years later. And I've said this many times on the show, Mandy. If you were at my house now and we went outside and there was a car accident and 2 reporters came up to us, my version of the report would be very different to your version of the report. There was no magical hand out of the sky that said this is the gospel according to Jesus Christ. This is to people that witnessed what Jesus Christ did and written it down. So, but there's a book called The Strange Mysterious Something Dog. It's about an autistic boy that's read it. Have you heard of it?
The Nighttime Dog.
Pardon?
The Strange and Curious Case of the
Night. Yes, very interesting. A very interesting book. Very, very interesting book. So
They
yeah,
made
I would say
a
that.
stage show in London.
Pardon?
They did that as a stage show in London.
I know, but the stage show I'm desperate to
Nighttime
see
Dog.
is,
That was a curious incident of the Nighttime Dog.
that's it. But the stage show that I'm desperate to see, that I'm hopefully going to see next year, is Dear Evan Hansen. It's about the whole musical based on mental health. I can't wait to get my seat down there. So go on, Claire. What's your third question?
Where do you see yourself in 10 years' time?
Bloody hell, I feel like I'm being properly interviewed now. Where do I see myself in 10 years' time? In care, still in care as a professional.
What, you personally or your job?
You know, the ultimate dream, though, the actual ultimate dream is for somebody to come up to me one day and go, do you know what? I'm going to fund you to do Loose Links for 3 years. And to give us that opportunity, and me that opportunity of doing it full time, taking over it full time, because I think we would be, if I could put more time into it, we would be even further than we are now. And I do put every last minute into it, but it would be absolutely fantastic if somebody saw us one day and went, actually, this is really good. This is something that should be a bit well known. Ashley, his surnames gave us, it'll come back to me, but Ashley something, hold on, give me a second. He gave us the first opportunity really to get us out there. Ashley Hill, is it Ashley Hill? Hold on, look. Ashley Hill. Hi, Ashley was the first person to put us on a live stage at Riverside Pride, where Claire conveniently became ill, so she didn't have to do it.
I got COVID. I can't conveniently get that.
But yeah, that would be the ultimate dream, 100%. Go on, Jason.
Over the last 3 years, we have been in and out of lockdown. Did you at any point break the law? And if so, how?
I can't believe this asked me that question.
No lying. You don't like being lied to.
No, I don't like being lied. I never had anybody in my house. Never had anybody in my house. I was very, because of being a type 1 diabetic. And because
That's a politician's answer. Doesn't
yeah,
answer
but I did meet people when I wasn't supposed to meet. Not like sexually. I'm not talking sexually here, but I did meet people when you were not supposed to. I think it was loneliness more than anything. I was fed up with my own bloody company. So I was like, let's just walk down the street 5 meters apart so I can just talk to you for 5 minutes. I did go to my best friend's a couple of times, just stood at the end of his drive and he came out the front door and I just stood there chatting for a bit. Because actually, I think we forget how really hard it was for people that suffer mental health wise, because actually isolation is a massive thing and a massive trigger. So well done to every single one of you out there.
You can't get in trouble for it, Nick. The PM parties.
Yeah, exactly. Mandy.
Well, it's similar to what was asked before, but I'm changing it a bit. If you had a time machine, but you could go back to any event, major event or small event, and either participate in it or do something to change it, what would it be? Why?
If I could go to any event. That's a hard one. If I could go to any event, which event would it be?
Oh, I love this new section. I can't wait till I do it.
I'm not doing it.
December 25th, the Stable Scene. I would love to have been at the Stable Scene to see Mary and Joseph on the donkey and the shepherds and the wise men and everybody in the first Christmas and hear that first cry, hear that first yelp when Jesus was born. It always, I remember when I first held Freddie. He's 2 now, ladies and gents, 2 years old, 2 last week. Happy birthday, Freddie. And I remember that first moment Katie put him in my arms and that that baby smell, that sort of wine, and the where they twist their head and they're wondering where they are and stuff like that. So yeah, or I would go back to the day Freddie was born, because I'd love that moment again where I took him off his sister and held him in my arms. He now goes, he goes round. Katie gave me a bloody nickname that I can't stand, because he shouts it down the street. So Katie says, "Oh, where's Uncle Nick Nick?" And I go, "Why can't you just call me Nick?"
Yeah.
No, not Uncle Nick. He literally goes, "Nick Nick!" as I walk down the street. Honestly, I'm like, no. And going back to one question, actually, if I could have a superpower to see anybody I wanted naked, to see anybody I wanted naked would be a superpower.
Yeah.
And be able to grab any backside I ever wanted to grab.
Yeah, that's against the law, Nick.
Yeah, but that's my superpower.
No, because Nick would be able to go in as the chief whip's office.
Yeah.
Claire.
Right. Where is your ideal holiday destination? As in, two-part question. One that you would like to go to, but another one is if you could afford it. As in, anywhere in the world, where would you go and why?
Australia.
Why? Them big spiders.
It's been on my bucket list for as long as I can possibly remember. So
At the moment,
if you ever want to surprise me, honestly, send me to Australia, because it's just something, I don't know, it's something about down under. I'd love to go.
Yeah.
I didn't even mean to say that. You know when you suddenly think, "Oh shit, what was that?" No, but I'd love to go to Australia. My friend's just come back from Australia. Actually, she's visiting, and I think she's still in the UK now. But it just sounds incredible. Sounds absolutely incredible. So yeah, if no bars limits, I think I would do both. Though, Claire. I think I would do New Zealand and Australia if I was going.
What about in this country? Where is your favourite place in this country? Or somewhere you'd like to visit that you've not been?
He enjoyed Manchester last
Yeah,
week.
well, actually, I'm starting to think about, because it's the second time I've gone away on my own, and actually I don't get me wrong, I enjoy going away with friends, my friends out there that I go away with, don't be offended, but it's quite nice to go away on your own as well, because I didn't have to think about anybody, I didn't have to consider anybody else, nobody knew me, and I escaped from everything. I escaped from loose links, I escaped from work, I escaped from the pressures of life.
I
called it the session of not being adult. I can
go
not
every
be
year.
adult.
I go every year to Manchester, and I
Do
go
you?
for Manchester Pride.
Yeah, see, I wouldn't do Pride. It was bloody busy at the train station this weekend, so I wouldn't do Pride weekend.
To just be the person you want to be, and to be accepted within that massive amount of people. It's just so nice.
Yeah, and the other. So if I wanted to, where I want to go from now on is actually, it's encouraged me to go to the gay friendly cities here. So I do want to go and explore a little bit more. I do like Blackpool, and I want to go to Brighton, and so it's all places like that where I can just escape. And it was such a lovely feeling. It was like, I don't know, you walk into a bar and 10 people would just chat to you and buy you drinks and having a laugh on the dance floor. It was just it was like being 18 all over again. And now being at the age of 22, I really have to take up those moments and enjoy it.
You know what, Nick, though? That's just being greedy.
Why?
10 men, 10 people just talking to you. Why can't you be happy with one?
Well, I won't go into any more detail about how I met on Manchester's Canal Street. We'll leave that there. But Jason, what's your? Have we got? Is that the final question? Is Jason's the final question, or have you got any more, Claire?
I've given you mine. My destination.
Right. Okay. So Jason is the last and final question. Make it a good one.
Do you think your faith and church offer you real support if you're having a difficult time?
Massively. huge, absolutely huge. Massive, 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 massive support. I didn't think I would ever share this, but I will. I will. I'm brave enough now to share it because I know the person that I was hiding from has blocked me. So I'm quite happy to share it. But I wasn't born Nicholas James. I was born James Ward. That was my original name. My original birth name was James Ward, and I went through this horrific case with the first man that I was with about domestic abuse and stuff like that. So I had to, long story short, I had to change my name. And when the police sit there and friends sit there and say to you, what name do you want to be? Well, where do you bloody start? I don't know. And we went through all these names, and I was really determined. I wanted to be part of something. I didn't want to be just a name. I wanted to be part of something. So I spoke to my vicar, who's now my godfather. I spoke to my vicar about this loads, about I want a connection somehow. I don't want to just be a random name. And the church that I go to is called St. Nicholas. So I became, my first name became my surname, and I became Nicholas James, because every time someone says Nicholas or Nick, it takes me back to the church family. So that's why, yeah, massively, I won't be around today without my church family. That brings us to the end of that segment. Thank you, ladies and gents. The next on the hot spot seat, maybe sometime next month, is our very own Miss Claire Browning May. Will be put on that hot seat as we get to ask her anything. So get prepared, Claire, because I might be saying how. What sort of naughty question could I ask? What sort of naughty question could I deal with?
It's family program this week.
Yeah, I'll have to think about it really strong. But we come to our last topic of the evening, ladies and gents, which is we're going to try and share the link. If I can find the link, we will put it on our Facebook page this week. But have you seen Barry, the 83-year-old man missing from the Lincoln area? He is thought to be wearing a grey jumper and shorts and white stockings on his legs. Barry also wears glasses. If you have seen Barry or have any information, could you please help us find him? Please call 101 quoting incident number 106 on the 24th of June. How bloody scary is that? How scary is it being one of your family members or stuff like that? But that does bring me back to a story that was huge a couple of years ago. And I want to talk about Madeleine McCann, because I've recently watched this documentary that everybody's talked about, la-da-da-da-da. Panel, this is a really awkward and quite mixed view conversation, really. So give as much as you've possibly got, really. But do you believe the parents really did have anything to do with it?
Yes.
You do. Why is that, Jason?
Well, I just think it's very odd that they would go out to a meal in the hotel that they were staying in, leaving both children asleep on their own with nobody looking after them and the window open in the actual apartment.
But again, there wasn't a door when one of them guys went to check on them. Wasn't the door open? He said, or we heard a noise. He heard a noise inside.
Apparently, yeah. But I just think, why would you do that? And you've gone on holiday with your children. Surely, if you were going to leave them, at least one parent, or you'd leave them with somebody who you knew or a friend that you'd met there, surely not on their own in an apartment on the ground floor.
But if they did do that, if they were involved, why did they want her to be taken?
I think it was a mistake. I think it went wrong. I think what they planned to do went a little bit awry. That's what I think happened. Personally, I mean, that's what I think. I mean, I don't know. Nobody knows, do they? But that's my personal opinion.
What about you, Mandy? Do you think we should be pointing the finger at the parents?
Well, I think whatever happened, they obviously feel very guilty. I know I would, you know, even if I just turned my back on my kids when they were little, or my grandkids now when one disappeared. It's devastating. But it like it was said that it does seem strange that you would go for a meal around the corner. Not, you can't even see, well, this, as I understand it, you couldn't even see the flat from where they were having a meal. They took it in turns to go back to check on the children, but they didn't go in. They just listened at the door. That, you know, I mean, I don't know, just odd things, but it could be true, and it was just one of those awful things that happened. But yeah, it's difficult to point the finger when you don't know all the facts. And I think if they really had been involved, we would have known. But again, then it's a different country. If it was this country, I think, you know, 90% of the time, I believe that our police and justice system find the real answers. But
I don't know if I agree with you, Mandy, only because of some of the recent information that has come out. So first of all, they stated that, yes, I completely agree with you. Why the hell, when there's a free babysitting service on the complex, would you lock your children in a room and go down for dinner? What a perfect, if it was planned, what a perfect way to get the child out the apartment without anybody being involved. In the McCanns, if they have planned it, would obviously get people round that dinner table and checking at certain times and stuff like that. But the things that have come out of this documentary is there was blood found of Madeleine McCann's in the boot of the McCann's car. There was a dog, 2 dogs sent over from the UK. There was a corpse dog and a blood dog that searched the apartment. And so let me start right back at the beginning. So your child goes missing. Okay, I'm not saying at all that the McCanns, if they have had nothing to do with it, are not at sound mind at this point, are not at la-di-da-di-da. The first thing that I find very, very odd is that she goes in, she goes running down, Maddie's gone. Everybody goes running upstairs. As a parent, I'm going to stand back a bit, but as a parent, I would stand at the door going, you're not going in, because actually there could be evidence in here. There could be evidence of what the clothing of the person or whatever. That I found that a little bit odd. But in the same respect, I found it a little bit, okay, maybe there was a time round and there were just hell on earth, where's the child? But the other thing that plays heavy on my mind is that you have got people running in and out of this apartment, wailing, crying, screaming for Maddie, absolutely screaming, and the twins don't wake up. Not one twin wakes up. So after all that commotion's happening, those 2 children sleep all the way through it. Not one scream, not one shudder wakes them up.
Are you thinking sleeping? They gave them something to go to sleep?
Yeah, I think they were sedated.
That's what I'm saying. They
yeah,
gave
yeah.
all of them.
Yeah, I think they were all sedated. I do. I think they were all sedated, because if I ran into Freddie's room in the middle of the night screaming, or Freddie'd be the first sat up. Do you know what I mean? He wouldn't sleep through it. And the other thing is, I've got my own conclusion, but the other thing is, if the McCanns had something to do with it and they organised that bloke that supposedly that woman saw that bloke walking with a child in their arms asleep, carrying her away, where would, if you're a parent that's got something to do with it, right, where would you not check? Where would you absolutely not even shudder of a chance check? And where you wouldn't check is the McCann's car boot. You wouldn't even think about going near their car. or in their boot. My conclusion is, I think Maddie was put in the boot. I think Maddie was put in the boot, and the car drove away. There was blood found in the boot of Madeleine McCann. So how can they say they've got nothing to do with it? Do you agree, or do you think I'm talking Barney?
No, I did wonder whether maybe if the three of them were in there on their own, maybe Maddie woke up, possibly, called for her parents, they weren't there, maybe went to venture to look for them, maybe something happened to her. Then maybe she could have been found by one of the friends or the parents, they panicked. But again, I don't think you could carry that off for this length of time. If you had, again, I don't know, because I've got a criminal mind, and I've not been, not that they've got criminal minds, but I don't know. It is a strange one, but it's also one that was kept in the media for a very long time and still is. And there's so many other children that go missing, and they don't get the media coverage. Whether this was because it was abroad, it was two very wealthy and they were doctors, weren't they? Professionals, two wealthy professionals. And she was a little blonde girl, but I don't understand if she was taken because she was a little blonde girl, why weren't the twins taken as well? I don't understand, but I don't know, you know, she could have been taken for somebody specific. She could have had an accident. I don't know. Yeah, it's hard. It's
Did they over-sedate her? That's the other thing that nobody ever talks about. Did they over-sedate her and actually kill her? Did they? Was they trying to get down to the meter? See, the thing is, what I can't get in my head is, why not just bloody sit on the balcony? Do you know what I mean? Sit on the balcony with a bottle of wine. Why do you need
them with you?
Yeah, take them with you. Let them play in the pool. Do you know what I mean? Why keep them, and why not use the babysitting service that was there?
Yeah, but that's it. It's all why, and we can surmise till, you know, the cows come home, but who knows until, you know, there is a body.
I don't think we're ever going to get that, are we? I don't think we're ever going to get that body. But the other question that leads me on to it is, okay, the parents were heavily interviewed and found to be clear of Maddie McCann's missing. I'm still not completely 100% on agreement with that, if I'm honest. But actually, do you think there should have been some sort of punishment for them? Like going down the line of maybe neglect?
Yeah, definitely. Who would leave 3 children? Especially abroad anyway. I mean, gosh, you wouldn't leave your own children at home. So why in a strange country? You wouldn't. So yes, they've done wrong. Like you say, it is neglect, isn't it?
But why aren't they being punished? It annoys me. I was watching it, just getting more.
You tell me, Nick, why?
The McCanns have really used the media to their own advantage.
Yeah.
Haven't they ran the story the way they wanted to be told and the way they wanted to be heard? And therefore, nobody's gone, hang on a minute, you left them, that is neglect. Yeah. Because everybody went very hysterical about the fact that she'd gone and nobody could find her, and the whole country kind of went shocked about all this. And it's only later when you start looking into the details that you think, hang on a minute, why would you? I mean, as Claire said, you wouldn't leave. I wouldn't leave my nephews and nieces at home. And my brother said, could you look after your nephews and nieces? And they're 15, 11 and 8. I would not leave the 11 and 8-year-old on their own and lock them in and say, I'll be back in an hour or so. I just wouldn't do it. Because I wouldn't feel comfortable that they were on their own, because you can say to them, don't answer the door. But they are likely just to do it because that's what they do when people knock at their door. generally, and the parents are there. I think if you leave your children, you are slightly running the risk anyway. If you then leave them in a foreign country and disappear where you can't see the room, and only just pop back now and again to listen through the door, I think you've got to question, was that really responsible for two doctors, professionals, to do?
But you've also got to think that the couple they were with have got to lie for them too. So I mean,
what's the whole thing?
I don't
That's
know
the
whether
other
I
thing.
could keep that up, you know.
Well, I don't know, because the thing is, they said don't know. Nobody knows. So they were on this complex, supposedly not many people around, la di da di da. So what if, and we don't know, do we at all? What if one of them went back at one point and they knew about so everybody knew about the station of the children, and actually every child that was there was sedated, because actually then they're going to sleep and they can enjoy their meals and they can run back and forth and la di da di da. But one of them comes back to the table and goes, "What the hell do we do? I've just found Maddie dead." And then they come up with this cunning plan altogether. Do you know what? Right, you go back up to the room now, come down screaming, and then we'll all take it from there. We'll go from there. They moved her. But the other thing that plays on my mind as well is this guy that supposedly was seen at the end of the road. One of the women saw a man carrying again. This leads me back to sedation. Carrying a girl asleep. He was heavily walking, she said, with a girl asleep in her arm. She didn't wake up. She didn't scream. She didn't wake up. She was asleep while this guy was carrying her, like quite brassly down the street. Do you know what I mean? None of it makes sense, does it? None of it.
No.
But that's it. Like I say, you could just go mad yourself, just trying to think, why was it? Is it?
How?
Yeah, we don't know. And like I say, and it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. If either way, if they were involved or they weren't, they are paying the consequences in one respect, because, you know, what about the twins? What about those other children?
Yeah.
I mean, how are they coping? You know, in the
It'd be
limelight.
interesting to find out, though, won't it? It'd be very interesting to find
totally.
out when those children are 16, 17, 18, if anything comes out about the Madeleine McCann family via them. Do you know what I mean? That'd be really interesting, because they can hush them at the moment because they're kids. But actually, I wonder if anything will come out of the limelight of it when those children aren't children anymore and they're 18, 19. Do you know what I mean? That'd be an interesting time. That brings us to the end of this week's Loose Links, ladies and gents. Thank you for watching this week. It's been a pleasure to have you on. And it's been even more of a pleasure because we wasn't on last week. So Mandy's done 2 weeks running. Can we do a round of applause for Mandy Stannard? 2 weeks running. We'll see you at same time, same place next week. Can you thank my panel for this evening? Joining me, Nicholas James, was Jason Lambert, Claire Browning May, and Mandy Stannard. See you next week, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.